Hello and welcome back to the Lee Summit Town Hall Podcast. I am your host, Nick Parker. This is a good time, as always, to remind the people that this podcast is brought to them by the good folk at Budget Blinds of Lee Summit, a great local family running a great local business. They are your home for enlightened style shades. All your window treatment needs, they got them. They even, if you want them, you can get those smart things. You want your shades to open with your phone, your smart speaker. You can do that. They are we like to call them our robot shade overlords. They're there for your home decor needs, your window treatments. They are supportive of pretty much all things happening here in Lee Summit. So if you're ready to make your home an awesome home, a smart home, go see our friends at Budget Blinds of Lee Summit. Tell them Nick sent you. Our guest today is continuing a fun focus we like to do, highlighting local nonprofits, doing some work in Lee Summit, doing good works. It's a new one, just launched. It's Today Promises Tomorrow. It is an offshoot. Is it an offshoot? Maybe that's what we should call it. Mike Graham, president of Tomorrow's Promise Today. Marion Marshall, executive director for the new nonprofit Today Promises Tomorrow. Mike, how are these two things related?
So, Tomorrow's Promise Today is something. This is our 11th year, providing academic support K through 12, in reading and math, and then ACT prep for local school districts, where we are actively in several of the local school districts. And our whole goal is to close the academic skill gap in kids reading and math. And then our data there is probably a little bit over 2, almost a 3 grade level increase in kids reading scores and math scores. So we've been doing great work there. And then on the ACT prep side at the high school level, our average is a 6 to 8 point jump, which is remarkable at the ACT level. So how that connects, when I started this 10 years ago, I started in the classroom as a teacher, became a vice principal, picked up a couple more degrees, and ended up being a high school principal. And
I'm really sorry.
Yeah,
that sounds scary.
Right. It was. So, and I got really good at understanding how to manage students, teachers, and parents. And what I saw was there was a huge academic skill gap. And I was bewildered on what's the next move, what's the next step, because these kids will one day leave my building and they will be in the real world, and that will be our community. So that's how Tomorrow's Promise Today got started. And we've been rolling ever since. If you think about the name Tomorrow's Promise Today, that focuses on our youth and tomorrow's future. Today Promises Tomorrow, our not-for-profit that I'm very excited about, and Ms. Marshall is very, very eager and ready to go. We're going to be very strategic in focusing on, and in the world of education, there's a thing called learning loss. And that's when kids go home in the summer or kids go home in the evening, and all the work that dedicated and lovely educator has done, if they're not going home to a solid, productive household, learning loss happens. So how we figured the work we put in with students, what happens when they go home to broken homes, to single parent homes, to underserved, high poverty, high crime communities. What happens when that kid goes home to that environment? That's where our focus shifts to Today Promises Tomorrow, because now we're able to focus on the today. Today is the parent, the homes that they're going to. So now that's next on our agenda. So I hope today is ready, because we're coming, and our goal is to not only focus on the youth, but get that adult in a winnable situation.
I really like that, folks. I can relate a little bit to that as well. I was the kid who I got home, and I went home to a single parent home, and I'm not going to spend this ragging on my mom. My mom was awesome, but I went home to a single parent home, taking care of a special needs sister, and all that stuff, I was gone. And over the summer, I didn't think about school. I don't know who does. So I can relate to that situation a little bit. Also, where were you like 35 years ago to improve my math scores by 2 grade levels? Because I could have used that.
Well, mine, I need it myself then too.
Holy moly! Math was the bane of my existence.
I think math is the bane of everybody's existence.
Yeah,
I know a few math nerds. They tend to like it.
That's true.
They're weird. Well, Marion, let's talk a little bit about you, how you got involved in this, and as the new. Well, let's just start there. As the new executive director, how are you involved? How did you get in?
I was recruited by Mr. Graham. I was originally working in corporate, and within corporate, there's the daily grind that you do. But it wasn't really fulfilling. It wasn't filling a void in me. I originally received my degree in early childhood education from the University of Southern Mississippi. Ventured into education for a little bit, stepped out, went into corporate. Years go by, I move up to Missouri, where I then enroll in University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC. Lovely school.
Go Roos.
Right. Pick up another degree, do a little bit of work again, so Mr. Graham approaches me and said, how about let's step back into education? I think there's more for you there. I think there's more that you can offer. So I did. I stepped back into a 3rd grade classroom, and it absolutely changed the outlooks of everything I thought I wanted to do or the path that I was on. When you step back into a classroom after so many years, you see where our students are now academically, the fight that they're having academically to keep up. So that is how I got back into education. That is how I joined TPT, Tomorrow's Promise Today. During those events, private tutoring and ACT prep, there came a greater need for how do we give back more to the community? How do we do that? Like he said, when kids go home to whatever environment they go home to, there needs to be additional help at home. We need to invest there because once you invest into the parent, the household as a whole, then that is where it gives back to the community. That is where our communities become stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for the future.
I think that gap, that bridge between school and parent, and full disclosure, I'm married to a teacher. I was raised by a teacher. My aunts and uncles were teachers. So I'm already team. I'm on the team. But I think, anybody who follows education knows that we ask more and more of the schoolhouse, right, to do all of the things. And there is that huge gap between what's happened. How can you help, once the kids leave the building and go home, how do you help the parents? And are all parents prepared? No. They're not. I mean, look, in the best of situations as parents, we're all making it up as we go along, right? None of us are ever ready. I'm doing the air quote there, ready for parenthood. So it's hard enough, and then you throw in, I should help them be educated as well. Mike, you said early on, that you realized you were good at managing students, managing teachers, and managing parents. Those are 3 very, very separate things. And school sets are we getting to a point where we need more things like what you're trying to do with the nonprofit with Today Promises Tomorrow to try to bridge that gap between keeping learning going at home and what happens in the school building?
Very, very much so. Very much so. And what's happening is a lot of the effective educators, like your wife, are getting
Thank you for
burned
helping
out.
me suck up there.
Right. They're getting burned out. They're getting burned out because maybe the lack of support or they're not seeing the immediate, the short-term win. One thing that really stands out in my mind that kind of pushes this the narrative with Today Promises Tomorrow is I think back all the time when I was a principal and I would sit in on a parent-teacher conference, or if a young lady was on the verge of being suspended and mom or dad had to come to the school for a meeting. I was big on accountability with students. And the student would say, in response to me, the student would say, yes, sir, no, sir. But then when they replied to mom, it would be a head nod, or it would be a yeah or a no. And then I found myself very quickly saying, what'd you say? She didn't understand what you said. And then they would say, oh, yes, ma'am. And I would just sit there and wonder, what happens at home? And that shows the need for an organization like ours. And I know there's a lot of not-for-profits out there that are doing some magnificent things, and we are definitely looking forward to collaborations with them to bring everything that we bring to the table and what they bring to the table. And the bottom line is getting the win. How do we get the win? I'm very, very excited about the opportunity to make a difference. And someone does need to step in and bridge the gap. And that's our whole focus.
When you guys, and I'll start with you on this one, Marion, when you're talking about, getting a win and making a difference, what you're trying to do seems like, filling a giant pit, right? So what are a few specific things that maybe you're trying to tackle now off the, at the start of things to really get some of those wins?
Absolutely. So we are focused on job skills, interview strategies, teaching parents how to interview, because not everyone knows. We also want to talk about life skills, teach them those. Invest in that parent 100%. What do you need? What don't you have? What skills can we help you develop? Because a lot of skills are already there. They just need someone to show them how to bring them to the surface, and a belief in themselves that they can do this, that every move that they make, every new skill that they learn or that they bring to the surface is a step in the right direction, is a positive back into that community. They're pouring back into not only their child, but into every other child that they encounter within that community. We start there. And while we start there with the parent, we continue nurturing that student. We continue building responsibility within that student, respect within that student, never letting them forget that everything that we've worked with them academically was truly to transform their academic future, to build their academic resume, to give them a brighter future, the future that they're wanting.
I think we don't always think of that connection between, I'll use myself as an example. Hey, if I go get the better job, I do the interview, that connection of, that's good for my child and their academic career and future job career too. Is that a hard connection to make, to get other people to make? Like, you see it because that's your jobs, you're in education, but is that a hard connection to show people?
I think it's I think it can be, and here's the red. This will give a really good snapshot of our vision into this. I look at a lot of the work that we do with the young people, and there's some organizations here at Bridge Space that I see do a lot of great things with young people. And the question is, what about the parents? Because what about the parents that maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago was in high school? They were that young person, and there was no TPT. There was no Jackson County organizations that met at Bridge Space to help mentor and guide them. So what's happening, those kids are now parents. So who's getting it? Who's giving the direction? And that's one of our focuses with the parents is, how do I make you a better parent? Do you have any idea of what being an effective parent is?
If we were all honest, we'd say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an uphill climb. But the thing is, knowledge is power. And our whole thing is putting people in front of parents that can do three things. which we need to get that on our shirts. M3, our motto, M3. It's motivate, momentum, and movement. M3, motivate, momentum, movement. With parents and youth, if we can motivate your mind to believe, maybe I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe I can be a better person. Maybe I can get that job. Maybe I don't have to wear steel toes. Movement, momentum. Okay, now let's get you off the porch. Let's turn that motivation in your mind into action, and let's start doing some interaction. And then movement is when we have you as the parent on a job, and then that movement is never going to stop because you have to retain. You have to be able to retain, that progress. So M3, motivate, momentum, movement.
I like that a lot because I think that fits in so many things. How easy it is for us to, whether we're a student, whether we're a parent, whatever. So easy to kind of spiral, to be like, to just get stuck. I don't see a way out. I don't know how I can make a change. It's not going to happen. And you just get stuck in that loop. But to take it one step at a time, like you're saying there, is, and to have somebody outside of your own head and maybe even your circle that can do that for you. I don't condone violence, but I always say I wish sometimes I had somebody to just slap me in the back of the head and be like, look, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
How do you start this? I mean, I know you just launched, but it seems like a daunting hill to climb. So how do you light that spark and start motivating people to even just to show up?
I'll go first, and then you can go, so you can get your thoughts together. I see your mind. I see the wheels turning.
I saw the wheels turning. I'm like, oh, she's gonna have a good answer.
Yeah. So we have the community. We this is our 10th year on the TPT side, so we have the young people, and the model really started developing a few years ago when we started. Any kid that does private tutoring or any type of academic support with us, we have an initial academic checkup where they have to come in with their parent. That gives us an opportunity to kind of get a quick evaluation of the parent without them knowing. And that kind of tells us what kind of support that young person has at home. So we've started building our model. We've started building relationships, community relationships, corporate relationships. We've started building and assessing the needs and being proactive and making sure that, of course, we're able to support the academic side. Now we're able to support the social emotional side. We're able to support the mental health well-being, the emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being. We're able to support that at the adult level and the youth level. One thing that stands out that I am super excited about, and I don't think Marshall fully understands my excitement, is that as a principal, I noticed one thing. Young ladies were my hardest manage, because whoever wrote the book Mean Girls, they are genius, because young ladies can be they can be very, very mean to each other. And our focus is we want your kid when they're in the kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and we want to follow them all the way up. So when they graduate from high school, from a St. Teresa's, a Lee Summit North, a Lee Summit High School, Lincoln Prep, they're on their way to college. They have strong morals, strong values, strong interpersonal skills. That's what we want. And I'm so excited about our game plan to work with these young ladies to build self-esteem, stronger decision making. And Marshall has a great team already lined up and more. I think it would be, how exciting would it be for her to reach out to Prosecutor Melissa Johnson and say, hey, I have a group of young ladies that that are anywhere from a 4.2 GPA on a weighted scale to a 2.0 GPA struggling, but have aspirations in getting into, they want to be a prosecutor one day. Can you come out and talk to these young ladies and share your story with them? How awesome would that be?
I got a couple comments on it. One, the first one, I love that you're showing that really let's not talk about GPAs. That doesn't tell us.
Right.
If I had a bone to pick with education system, it's let's just get rid of the GPA. That tells us nothing about it. And sorry, I won't get on my soapbox. The other one, the other thing that I really that caught me there was you talked about that connection beyond just the year that you have that teacher. Because if you think about when you ask graduating seniors or any us olds, I'm not calling you old, Marion. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lump you into the group with me and Mike. Yeah, I don't want to lump you in. But if you ask us, like the teacher that meant something, it's the one that had the connection beyond that school year, that academic year, right? So I think that's where you're really onto something is how to get that connection beyond the classroom.
And it is. It kind of flows. So when we bring a student in, like he was explaining, to do the academic checkup and get them ready for private tutoring or ACT prep, whatever the case may be that brings them to Bridge Space, I follow with them behind the scenes. I text them throughout the day. I call them. And unbeknownst to most people, I show up at schools with parents, introduce myself to their principal, to their teachers, and things like that, just to show that they have now this additional support system behind them. And that's a push for parents as well, because parents know now I don't have to fight for my students on my own. There's a whole company over here willing to fight for my students. But in that process, I get to know the students. I get to know their dreams. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want to do in college? What do you want to study? We get to know every single thing that we can, so that when they finish our program, when they finish high school, my next call is, okay, send me your schedule for college. How can we tutor you? How can we help? Let me know your professors. Send them my information. Let me have theirs so that we can correspond. So if there is an issue, if there's something that we can help you through, we're already there on top of it.
But Marshall, of course we do that, but and I think it's so important that you have a good team, because I look at the work that you do with our private tutoring, and one particular student that I'm thinking about over at Center High School, the work you've done with that young lady made a huge influence on her mom. And then her mom latched on to you, single parent. Her mom latched on to you, and you started pouring into her mom. And this is it's just so exciting. What happened with her mom this week?
So her mom happens to be exceptional at math, really good at math. So after digging a little bit, from spending time with her here at the building at Bridge Space, she is now an employee of Tomorrow's Promise Today. She is one of our high dosage tutors for math in all levels of math. So meeting her daughter, getting her this, not even just the assistance she needed, but the encouragement behind the scene was something mom felt strong about, which drew her closer to TPT. It's like, okay, if they're going to take this time to invest in my child, someone they don't know, but are taking the time to know, educate her, mentor her, show up at her school, this is a company that I want to be involved in. Absolutely. Come on board. We could definitely use you.
I love that kind of goes back to what you mentioned in the very beginning about that community building aspect of it, though, where it's like we're helping the daughter. To do that, we have to get involved with the parent as well. The parent gets involved with the daughter, but then circles in and says, I can help others. I've got also unicorn, right? Finding somebody who likes math and is good at it. I don't understand. But I think that cyclical nature of when you're in, and then you realize not only am I helping my child, I'm helping myself. and I'm going to help others. I'm going to bring others in. And that's what we're, with all of our nonprofit work, right? That's what we're trying to do, is build that community where everybody's involved and a part of it.
Yep. And she's over it. She's just not doing just regular tutoring. She's over at Harmon High School in Kansas City, Kansas School District 3 days a week. And she's in the classroom with the teacher of record, not as a para, not as a teacher's aide, but as another means of academic support for a high-level math class. And she's killing it, and it's her comfort zone because she saw something in Marshall that Marshall poured into her baby with, and then Marshall was able to pour into her. And although she is doing work for us in the Kansas City, Kansas School District, Marshall was very adamant that you will be held accountable. You will have checks and balances. So the hope is that she will use that daily and realize I have to have self-discipline, I have to self-control, I have to be strategic, that she will bring that home and use those same skills as a parent.
Marion, how do you replicate that as you get this thing going? How do you replicate that as you bring in other parents to I guess to help them see that, whatever their thing is? I mean, how do you make that happen again and again and again? Which is probably the big question that you all haven't answered yet, but I'm going to be mean and ask anyway.
It's not. It's something that kind of happens organically. It through conversation. I spend a lot of time with students. I spend a lot of time with our staff, getting to know them, but the parents as well. Most students may not know that I text their parents, I email their parents, I call them. I send them videos of their students here in our Enbridge space being tutored. When you spend that much time getting to know them, bringing them up to speed on what their student is doing, that excitement begins to build. That relationship forms. Anytime you encounter anyone, you start to build a relationship of trust. Once that relationship is trust there, that's all I have to do, is be genuinely invested in their child's future. For them, that's all it takes. Once I'm invested, they in turn are then invested in me, and they want to know more. They want to know more about me, about our organization, about Mr. Graham, the people who work for us, the support system that we have in place. So it just kind of happens naturally through the process every single day. And Graham will tease, he'll be like, it's not about liking you, Marion. It's not because they like you. It's because they trust you. I said, but they like me too. He said, but they do. It's more than that. There's something about you that people want to gravitate towards. And I said, well, that's good, because that will help us bring more people in, more students in. And that's more support that we can provide and pour back into communities.
I feel like you just described every teacher's dream scenario, is the ability to invest that time and to really, really dig in. And I think it is equally awesome that you are doing it with this organization, and also a little frustrating that we have to have you. And I don't know if that I don't know if that came off right or not, but I think that's the dream, right? Is to be able to invest that time and to make those connections, not just sitting at a desk together working on algebra or whatever.
Yeah. And not every teacher has that opportunity.
No.
Curriculum is tight. Trying to get students ready for the next term, there's not a lot of time for that. So the one thing that I tell our team or our academic coaches, I spend a lot of time with them, is I know we get frustrated, but here's what you always need to remember. The time that you invest in that student, it's not wasted. Here's what happens. When that student leaves your classroom, they walk out into reality. They walk back into the neighborhood in which they see every single day. They walk back into the circumstances that place them in that neighborhood, or the things that they have to face. It's not that they're forgetting. They're trying to balance what you've taught them against what the reality is when they walk outside of that school. Your job is to keep pushing, keep investing, and show them when they look beyond their neighborhood streets, there's something greater. And there's something even greater than that. That education is that one thing that can take them anywhere that they want to go. They simply need to believe as much as you believe in them.
It really makes that contact outside of the school building is so much more important.
It does.
I a few years ago, I got a phone call and an email from the Royals, and it said, "Hey, Coach Graham, such and such with the Royals. We want you to sit in the Buck O'Neill seat. Can you send this over, this over, this over, this over?" It's like, sure. So I did it, and when they put it up on the jumbotron at the Royals game, I guess the good thing about it, all these beers and drinks just start. I think everybody in that section sent a drink. I was like, man. But I asked the lady. I said, how did I get this? Who recommended me for this? And she said, well, usually we don't tell, but I'll tell you, Dayton Moore. It's like the GM. And at that time, he was a Royals GM. Yeah. And she's like, yeah. I said, it's cool. So I coached a baseball team with the Boys and Girls Club, RBI program. And we worked out at the Urban Youth Academy. And so Dayton Moore he was always there. And a lot of times he would come out and help me hit ground balls or whatever. And the kids had no idea, man, this is the GM for the Royals hitting me ground balls. But me and him had a conversation. I said, Dayton, why me? And he tried to play crazy. I said, no. You recommended me for the Buck O'Neill seat. Why me? He said, why not you? And he said, one thing I've watched you and one thing I admire about you is that when people are around you, they have to conform. They have to buy into your energy. And you said something in a conversation when we were talking about TPT. And you said 3 things that matter, that are non-negotiables. And one, for anybody that works with you guys and work with young people, he said, 1, they have to be passionate about making a way for the young person, for the community. But 2, they have to be passionate about bettering themselves, because if they don't continue to grow, then they can't continue to pour into the community. And he said, the final thing was, you said, high character. They have to have high character. And he said those 3 things stood out, and watching you, it really motivated me. And I used that in one of our meetings, the 3 things that you said. So when I a lot of times I hate to reminisce, but a lot of times I'll think back to that conversation, and it will just motivate me more and more and more to reach out to the community as strong as we can. And that's why it's an easier deliver with people like Marshall on our team. And I'm excited about the team that she's going to build under her, because I know they will be people that are of high character, wants to better themselves, and are dedicated to making a way for these kids, because they're in a fight for their life.
I love that story. That's a great story. And I love that you keep going back to the interconnectivity of all the things. You know, I think a lot of times we get stuck in these arguments about education, right? That you just got to stick with the reading, writing, arithmetic, right? But that doesn't work.
Mm-mm. It's trust. It's trust.
Right. You're going to listen to a teacher you trust. You're going to listen to an educator that shows that they care about more than just what you do between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, or whatever your school time is. I like that you keep kind of going back to that interconnectivity. Let's switch gears just a little bit. For anyone listening, for a parent who's listening, says, I want to get involved. Well, look, I want the service. I want to help the service. All of the above. How can people find you? How can people get involved?
I'll go first so you can get your thoughts.
Why does he keep doing that? Why does he keep? It's like a mini gut punch a little bit, isn't it, Nick?
He's just reminding you that he's the principal.
I guess, yeah.
One thing about us, we don't just focus on any zip code. We focus on any young person that needs help, which is every young person, because they're in a fight for their lives. And adults, same thing with adults. You don't have to be unemployed or you're with a low skill set for us to work with you. I guess a good snapshot is we have 5 superintendents' kids that not only we give academic support for private tutoring, but we mentor as well. Five superintendents' kids trust us to send their kids to us, not just for tutoring, but for their mentoring as well. So, you ready now? You got your thoughts together? Did I buffer enough for you?
Really?
All right, you got it.
I feel like there's gonna be hands thrown
There's
later.
going to be some WWE moves done lately if he keeps gut punching me. But no, just simply reach out to us. They're welcome to call me. We're happy to always provide that information. They can email us any contact, anything that they send to me or they send to Mike, I follow up on immediately. I get things scheduled. I get them brought into the office so we can get the ball rolling, so we can get to know how can we help. What do you need from us? What can we do?
What's the phone number?
The number is 913-286-9326.
And a website or email?
So my email is Marion M. Marshall at tptleaders.com.
All right.
Website.
So our website, that's your cue. You're a website guy.
Sleep at the wheel. www.todayptm.com. www.todaytpm.com. I mean PTM, sorry. Todaypromisestomorrow.com. We also have I would encourage you to take a look at our Instagram. It's TPT Leaders KC. They're constantly putting students and educators and mentors following that journey all the time. Our Facebook page as well, TPT Leaders. Definitely check that out.
I love all of that. That is just a little inspiring. Even if you're a principal, I'll get over that a little bit. But I really enjoy and talking to you guys and hearing what you're doing and so respect your ability and your drive to do that. Because listen, I'll be honest, that the thought of teaching children frightens me. I don't have that kind of patience. But I love what you're doing. I like that like you said, you are all over, not just one zip code. You're helping everyone really in the area, and then just that interconnectivity of the connections between parents and their students and the teachers and the mentors. Mentorship is huge. I think we all need mentors. Doesn't matter what age we are. We need that person in our life. So I appreciate that. Mike, Marion, thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us,
Thanks
Nick.
for having us.
That'll wrap us up for this episode. We'll talk to everybody next time.